Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. The Radio and TV News Endowment, a fund established by listeners and viewers to sustain reporting of Indiana news. More information at indianapublicmedia.org/support. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The primaries are over, but the 2018 general election is already in full swing. President Trump is in town to drum up support for Senate candidate Mike Braun. And Brandon Smith joins us from Indianapolis to talk about what's shaping up to be a contentious race. Plus, we'll look at one Indiana county in dire need of more jail cells.
Hancock County will move forward with building a new jail despite voters not supporting a referendum to fund the project. Coming up, we'll explain how county leaders plan to make it happen.
Plus, a program that helps special needs students get a traditional college experience hopes to expand. And the town at the center of Indiana's HIV outbreak is finally hitting a home run. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Indiana's Joe Donnelly is one of 10 Democratic senators up for re-election this year in states Donald Trump won in 2016. Donnelly has his work cut out for him. He'll face Mike Braun, who has deep pockets and a lot in common with the president. Braun is a businessman and ran his campaign on the idea that he is a political outsider. If there were any doubts about the significance of Indiana's race, that went out the window yesterday. The president and vice president held a campaign rally in Elkhart, just a few miles from Donnelly's hometown. Braun appeared with them. It was a signal the GOP is trying to unify behind their nominee ahead of the general election.
Now, if Joe Donnelly, Sleeping Joe, and the Democrats get back into power, remember what I said. They will raise your taxes. Who wants to raise your taxes? They will destroy your jobs, and they are going to knock the hell out of your borders, and that's already. We have the worst immigration laws in the history of mankind.
But Donnelly says he's prepared for the fight. While the GOP primary once seemed like a toss-up, Braun is confident after defeating Todd Rokita and Luke Messer by a large margin. Indiana's Senate Republican primary was dubbed one of the nastiest in the nation. Now that they have their candidate, the GOP hopes their candidate isn't too battered from the grueling race to mount an effective challenge against Donnelly. Braun says he's ready to shift his campaign focus and start debating Donnelly on the issues.
Remember, Joe Donnelly voted for Obamacare. He voted against tax reform. His record is going to be easy to flush out.
Donnelly's response? I'm ready for the fight. He says he's eager to defend himself and his record.
I have total faith in them that they want to see this not decided on the basis of who has the most super PACs or who has the biggest bank account, but on who'll fight for them.
Braun loaned almost $5.5 million of his own money to his primary campaign, and Donnelly, for his part, has been largely flying under the radar and raising money while the GOP candidates battled it out in the primary. And my colleague, Brandon Smith, joins us now from Indianapolis. Brandon, have you seen anything from Braun since he won Tuesday's primary that signals some type of attempt to come back to the middle and pick up those votes from Donnelly?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, as you pointed out, Joe, one of the first big things he's done since winning the primary was attending that large rally in Elkhart with Vice President Pence and President Donald Trump. And I don't think that's something that's necessarily going to endear him to the more moderate or independent voters that could decide this race.
Is there anything in particular that came up in the primary campaign that you think it'd make it more difficult for Braun to change his stance on?
It would be his unqualified, unwavering support for Donald Trump. All three candidates did everything they could to hew as close as possible to the president. And so far, at least for Braun, that hasn't changed.
You know, as we said earlier, Braun defeated former 6th District Representative Luke Messer, 4th District Representative Todd Rokita to win the Republican nomination. So now what happens with Rokita and Messer after giving up their secure GOP seats?
Well, presumably they ride off into the sunset holding hands together. But in all seriousness, Messer has a history of being a lobbyist. It's possible he could go back to that. His concession speech did certainly sound like a retirement speech from political office. Todd Rokita, on the other hand, he left his options very open in his speech. It'll be interesting to see what he does next, whether it's a job in government perhaps, or a run for office in the future.
All right, Brandon, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Former Democratic policymaker Liz Watson will face Republican incumbent Trey Hollingsworth in the 9th congressional race. Watson beat civil rights lawyer Dan Cannon and another candidate in the Democratic primary. Hollingsworth had one challenger who he also easily defeated. As they square off for November, Hollingsworth says his record on fighting for jobs will carry him to another term.
And I'm really proud of the work that I've done, along with my colleagues in Congress, along with the administration, in moving the economy forward. And we've seen some tremendous strides, real and meaningful wage growth, real and meaningful job creation, real and meaningful expansion by small businesses. And I think that's so important.
Watson has focused on using town halls and constituent meetings to introduce herself to voters and talk about her policy ideas.
I am inviting Trey Hollingsworth to debate me in all. I'm issuing this request to him. Come, debate me. Let's make the choice clear for Hoosiers, because Hoosiers have a clear choice in November.
The 9th District used to elect conservative Democrats before it was redistricted to favor the GOP after the 2010 census. Political analyst Andy Downs says the seat is winnable, but Watson will have to appeal to more conservative 9th District voters.
And if you have managed to win because you are the dominant force in Bloomington, you may have found yourself positioned too far out to the left to attract voters from the rest of the district. I mean, it's a real danger. It's a geographic danger that you find in some districts, certainly down in the 9th.
And after her primary win, Watson challenged Hollingsworth to 13 debates, one in every county in the 9th District. Now, for headlines, we go to Barbara Brozier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. 2 Indianapolis officers accused of wrongdoing in the fatal shooting of an unarmed black motorist have been cleared. A police merit board voted 5-2 last night in favor of officers Michael Dinson and Carlton Howard in the 2017 shooting of Aaron Bailey. The officers said that Bailey ignored commands to show his hands and reached into his car's console after crashing into a tree following the pursuit. It's not clear when the officers might return to duty. Well, drivers aren't the only ones counting down the days until the state finishes converting State Road 37 into Section 5 of I-69. Business owners along the route say the construction is confusing customers and slowing down sales.
Mark Thompson is used to seeing a steady stream of traffic out the front windows of his furniture store on State Road 37. But the past few months, it's traffic of a different kind. Bulldozers and dump trucks.
I mean, even now, 3.5 years in, they're still digging dirt in front of the place. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you know, you'd think that part would have been done a long time ago.
Crews are working to finish construction on the stretch of I-69 from Bloomington to Martinsville. New bridges and exits are going up, and Thompson says it makes it harder for people to get to his store. In fact, it took us a couple of tries before we could figure it out. What used to be a quick trip from downtown Bloomington now requires drivers to travel a few miles north of the store before making a U-turn to exit on Sample Road.
You have to really be willing to go out of your way to get here.
The Indiana Department of Transportation says that won't be the case once the Sample Road interchange is complete, and the agency put up signs to help drivers navigate to businesses directly off 37.
And I think we're getting people where they need to go now. It doesn't always happen on the first time, and sometimes we have to move them around and change the location of the signage to make sure folks are getting where they need to be.
Thompson says business is much slower than normal, but he's hoping it's an inconvenience that will soon be gone. While the state has an August 31st deadline to finish Section 5, he wants to see the work happening directly in front of his shop wrap up sooner.
August is our big month. That we're hoping that this will be done by then, because that's our big month with the students coming back. But we don't know for sure, because it changes all the time.
The project is nearly 2 years behind schedule, but INDOT is confident it will meet its August deadline.
President Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal isn't surprising, but it could present a major roadblock for Iran's economy. A policy expert says if President Trump is successful, his plan could provide more stability in the Middle East. But he says the stakes are high if he fails.
We could see Iran restarting its nuclear program. That again would be a gamble for Iran, because if Iran were to restart its nuclear program, it's quite likely that Trump would launch missiles against those sites.
He says there's a 180-day window before imposed sanctions go into effect, and during that time, diplomats will likely work to create a new agreement. Gas prices are up about 50 cents a gallon compared to this time last year. The price hike can be partly traced to the switch from gasoline's winter blend to summer blend. Indiana's gas prices have increased more than those in any other state since January 1st. And it's coming at the worst time, Joe, and a lot of families are hitting the road for summer vacation soon.
It's time to travel. The weather's beautiful. Got to get going. Thanks, Barbara. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Jail overcrowding is an issue across the nation. We'll show you the approach one Indiana county is taking to try and solve the problem. And you'll want to grab your peanuts and Cracker Jacks for this story. We'll take you to a field where one community's dreams are coming true. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
$10,000.
15? 15, you think?
20, 21,000?
600.
20. 18.5.
24.
It's at least 40.
Look at it.
4,500,000.
650.
20.
650.
This textile would be worth about $500,000.
$500,000?
No way.
I knew it's just a blanket.
Laying on the back of a chair. Well, sir, you have a national treasure.
Wow.
A national treasure. Congratulations.
I can't believe this.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Hancock County leaders say they still plan to build a new jail despite residents defeating a property tax referendum to help fund the project. 53% of voters were against the referendum. The county now plans to use a local income tax increase to cover some of the cost of the $55 million project. As Barbara Brozier reports, county officials say the project can't wait.
As Keith Oliver steps into one of the cell blocks at the Hancock County Jail, the challenges he faces are immediately clear. There are multiple people sleeping on the floor in what resemble plastic sleds, and there's not much room for inmates to move around.
This setup here, we should basically have 12, we should have 18 people in this block, so we have 23. So what happens is we have people that sleep out here in the day room, which is not properly secured, so staff walks in here every hour to check on them. There's no place for them to go lock down.
There are more than 200 inmates at the jail on this particular day. To be in compliance with state law, the county is only supposed to hold 126 people. Numbers haven't been that low in a long time.
Obviously, when more inmates get in a block, it gets more hostile, gets more upset, which in turn causes more fights, causes more trying to move people to other cells because they can't get along with each other. And eventually you just run out of room. So then you have to start locking people down or figure out other alternatives for that.
It's a situation, Oliver says, puts inmates and guards at risk. And he's frustrated because he hears from other jail commanders who are also out of space and nearly out of patience.
Everybody's having this problem. This ain't a Hancock County problem. This ain't a, Henry County problem or Shelby County. This is a statewide problem.
A statewide problem, but one that each county is left to find a solution for on its own. The conversation about building a new jail in Hancock County started about a decade ago. A proposed new facility could house up to 3 times the number of inmates and would allow the county to expand some of its programs, like connecting inmates battling addiction with treatment. And there's a sense of urgency to the project.
Before we kicked the can 10 years, this was a $35 million project. Now it's a $55 million project. If you want to kick it down the road 3 or 4 more years, it's a $70 million project. If you want to wait another 10 years, we can spend $150 million on this.
The $55 million price tag includes repurposing the county's current jail and work release centers, as well as making some changes to the courthouse. The county wants to build the new jail in this residential area, which is right behind where the current jail sits. Now, it would have to buy these houses first, but once construction starts, county officials say it would only take about 18 months before the jail is complete. And while not all taxpayers are thrilled with the idea of shouldering the financial burden, county leaders say it's necessary.
There's no amount of money that's worth even a criminal losing their life or losing their ability to become rehabilitated and continue to have a life, take care of their family, and move on with their life.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brozier.
It's unclear how quickly the county could decide to increase income taxes. That money alone likely won't be enough to cover the costs of the project. Across the country, schools are honoring graduates at commencement ceremonies. At Franklin College, a group of students who are part of a 2-year program called Inspire graduated this week. The work-study program lets special needs students have a traditional college experience. They go to class, participate in campus activities, and meet friends along the way. Inspire is in its 5th year, and as Lindsay Wright reports, administrators want to expand the program to keep up with demand.
In Adam Heverin's exercise science class, students are learning about muscles in the hip and thigh as they head into the home stretch of the semester. There's one student in particular who's really engaged in today's work. Emery Himes participates in class discussion and keeps up on his assignments. Heverin calls Emery one of his best students.
He has a great imagination and he comes up with things in class that our other students don't. So it's not like he's just sitting back in the rafters just watching and things go on. He actually adds something to this class.
Emery has Down syndrome, but that hasn't stopped him from getting a college education. He's finishing up his last year in the Inspire program at Franklin College. It's a program connected to Earlywood Educational Services. These students work around campus, learn social skills, and go to classes, like the one Emery is in. Professors don't take it easy on these students. Heverin says he challenges Emery inside the classroom and out, even in the weight room.
One more, you can do it. Good, rest. Go ahead, I'll take the weight for you. He takes what we're doing in class and he applies it outside, and that to me is a big deal.
The goal of Inspire is to make students more independent and prepare them for potential employment opportunities.
And it's fun to hang out with friends, walk around there with them and anywhere campus.
Emery likes the challenge. That's what he was hoping for when he applied for the program and first learned he was accepted in 2016.
What is that letter?
Second college.
He was one of 10 students accepted to the program.
And I thought, it's a big campus. Could he wander off and, get himself in some trouble? So it was a lot of soul searching, and finally we just took a deep breath and and went with it. And he has just blossomed down here.
But Emery's mother, Barb, says now the whole family calls Franklin home, particularly the football field where Emery enjoys tailgates and games. It's the atmosphere Emery loves. The players and coach have embraced the Inspire students and have helped give them a quote-unquote normal college experience.
I think that by having these students out here at our practice, it's not only good for them to see our guys and see some normalcy of a college football practice, but it's great for our guys to have this group out here and cheer them on, even in a practice setting.
When Inspire first launched at Franklin, the school only accepted 5 students, and it didn't have the same kind of structure. The students, for example, didn't get to enroll in classes. The school now offers 40 courses and has implemented an internship program. They say it's truly become a campus-wide effort, and the whole college reaps the benefits, not just the Inspire students.
There are bumps in the road. It's not always an easy road to navigate, but when you've got a team, a community, everybody working in the same direction and moving things forward, it's very reassuring in a time that's not reassuring for you and your family.
At times, the road may have been bumpy, but it led Emery here, graduation day. And who better to send the graduates off on their next chapter in life than Coach Leonard?
Seeing you guys walk in was amazing.
He tells the students to work hard and to remember the importance of teamwork in the future.
Anytime I break a meeting up, like I am finished up with now, I see some football guys in the back there, we normally break it down with a word. How about we all break it down with the word inspire? Because you guys have inspired us. Hopefully we've inspired you. So I'm going to say inspire on 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll all say inspire. Inspire on 3, 1, 2, 3. Inspire! Thank you very much.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Lindsay Wright.
Emery plans to continue rooting for Franklin's football team. He's going to be doing it in an official capacity now as an assistant coach. Next week, Lindsay Wright will introduce you to another Inspire graduate. You can see how the former student is applying the skills learned through the Inspire program. The Indiana Department of Child Services is continuing to face financial and staffing problems after the departure of former DCS Director Mary Beth Bonaventura. The agency is hundreds of millions of dollars over budget with more than a month left in the fiscal year. The issues plaguing the child welfare system are impacting the services local communities can provide. Miranda Fillmore reports on how some Monroe County residents are working together in hopes of improving the agency from the ground up.
About 50 residents used their lunch break to attend a Monroe County Youth Worker Cafe hosted by the Indiana Youth Institute. A panel from the county's Department of Child Services, the foster care system, and court-appointed special advocates brainstormed solutions to funding and staffing problems.
So we've seen about 100% increase in the number of children receiving services in our agency from 2015 to March of 2018. We relate that directly to the opioid epidemic. About 90% of the cases that we see have some kind of substance use disorder.
Bullock says one of her office's biggest challenges is employee retention because caseloads are double what they were 3 years ago. And there's not enough foster homes available to meet the growing need. It's a problem that has exhausted the list of foster parents.
And I just respond to those emails now, the 20 plus emails we get a day saying, I have no homes, I have no homes, I have no homes. I don't, there's unfortunately not even a purpose to read them at this point in time because I literally do not have anyone.
It's common for foster families to have 4 to 5 foster kids in their home at one time. The focus is on placing young kids first. A lot of times, teenagers who are older than 16 don't get considered for foster families because they're about to age out of the system. Stepping Stone residential coordinator Melissa Pinetto says that's when her organization can step in.
And so our program provides that assistantship, those independent living skills, working with them to pursue their education, their employment, seek the mental health services that they need.
As schools tally unexcused absences at the end of the school year, Bullock says whatever the age, they're preparing for more cases in the coming weeks. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Miranda Fulmore.
And the small Indiana town made famous for an HIV outbreak is finally getting some good news. Austin, Indiana is the winner of a nationwide competition for a baseball field makeover. Austin beat out 3 other finalists for the Scotts Field refurbishment program, which will give the community $50,000 worth of products and services to renovate the main Little League field at Austin Community Park. The makeover will include leveling, grading, and sodding the field. Work is expected to begin soon with the ribbon cutting ceremony and youth clinic planned once it's complete. And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. The Radio and TV News Endowment, a fund established by listeners and viewers to sustain reporting of Indiana news. More information at indianapublicmedia.org/support. And by WTIU members. Thank you.